is Lucas. Hello, my name is Lucas Wisdom. You know me because I'm in your 5th period. I am doing the video on To Kill a Mockingbird Project, and a few things before we begin. I have a few notes written down, but that is it. I do not have a script. This is completely improvised whatsoever, other than the notes I have written down currently. And there is no one around me. I have no one, so yeah. And third, I'm recording this on my phone, so the audio and visual quality will not be the highest. I mean, not the best, but that's okay, because, yeah, you've seen my work. It's not the highest quality anyway. So shall we begin? The trial that we're analyzing was against Male Ewell, who has been raped. I'm only giving you this information in case you want to show anyone else who has not seen the video, and for those who might be analyzing it. Mayella Ewell is the daughter of Bob Ewell, a important character who, well, he's not really that important, but he's irritating, rude, and he's very uneducated. Much like many of the other characters in this book, because they don't have proper education, and this is in the 50s, so not the best time anyway. So she is accused of being raped by Tom Robinson, who is a black man, and we later learned that it's not possible that he could have, but things happen in Male's favor towards him. So, chapter 17, we begin with Heck Tate, the sheriff, his testimony on the matter, and there are some facts established when this comes about. The first one established is no doctor was contacted, and this is a recurring theme throughout most of the characters, because there was no doctor. Apparently, her functions weren't damaged enough. The implications thereof are she was not examined, therefore there's no evidence that she was raped. This was roughly a 2 to 3 week period after the event, showing that even if there was any signs that she had been raped, there was no possible way to see it. Therefore, well, destroying the enemy's case. Then the right part of her face was bruised. And this is interesting because it implies that the assailant is left-handed. And if they're left-handed, well, then that is a larger meaning later on in the trial. We later learn Mr. Gilmer. Mr. Gilmer is the defendant attorney for Male Ewell. And he and Atticus are gentlemen to each other. They're kind and, yes, because that is how you have to be in the office, or rather the court. Okay, third fact established was she had bruises all around her neck. Possibly both hands had been choking her. This was, she said she was choked, and it seemed that Heck Tate also believed she was choked because there were bruises around her neck, implying that that could have happened, and that would require both hands because they had gone from the back to the front, or rather from the front to the back, either way. This implies that not only being left-handed, the assailant was also able to use both arms, which becomes a theme later. And she had multiple bruises across her arms, there, showing that, once again, not just right hand, but both hands were able to be used against her in this incursion. Now, that is Heck Tate's testimony over with. Now, Bob Ewell's testimony. This is an interesting one because he kind of hurts his own case a little bit. Once again, we establish no doctor was contacted. We get he's a bad father, and furthermore, Mela was not raped. This was another implication due to the fact that there was no doctor called because he didn't care about her condition enough to get a doctor contacted, and also, once again, there was no evidence showing that she had been raped due to the fact that no doctor was contacted. Second fact was he agrees with Heck Tate's testimony. Heck Tate, in his eyes, is the enemy. One of the person that is trying to make sure that Tom Robinson gets justice rather than Male Ewell because of things that happened. But here, Bob Ewell is agreeing with Heck Tate and allowing his own case to be damaged. This implies that like both hands could be used once again. This is being relayed many times, so that the jury, who was a bunch of white men, so there's another issue there. There's no black men, so it's completely biased against the colored folk of this town. It shows that the assailant was primarily left-handed. That's my right. Left-handed, sorry, but could use both. And later, another fact that is drawn is that Bob Ewell is left-handed because he was handed a slip of paper to write his name after being said that he can, in fact, write because he is educated enough to read and write. This implies that he was the one that attacked his daughter, and we don't know the reasons yet, but that was a mere implication. Later we do figure out why and what actually happened. Now, that's chapter 17 over. That's a very quick and very rough estimate of everything that happened. Chapter 18 was Mayella's testimony. And now, in here, we learned a couple things. The first fact was Mayella is 19 years old. So, legally an adult, but old enough. And what they imply is she is mentally and cognitively able to understand right from wrong. She completely understands, like, what she should be doing and what is socially allowed and what is not. Second fact established was she is not respected at home because of things that happen. This leads to her being socially inept. We figured this fact out through Atticus calling her ma'am and other formal ways of referring to her, and she thinks he's mocking him because she's never been respected before, so she believes that he is calling her older than she is or something of a derogatory term. We later learn she also has no friends through questioning. It's always either her and her father and the 7 children, or her and the 7 children at their home behind the dump. But there's no really, the friends have never been involved. So this implies that she is very lonely and wishes to gain friends, or is just lonely in general, because all she has is her father and her children and her siblings. Fourth fact established was she gets along with her father when he isn't drunk. We later established that he is an alcoholic, Bob Ewell is. And this could be another defining factor onto why he would attack his daughter for a case. Lead also with the fact that he is predominantly left-handed. And this is an implication that she is abused, because if he gets drunk often, and it seems that her words were, "I get along with him just fine unless he is drunk." It's not complete paraphrasing, but you get the idea. So it seems he gets drunk often enough, and then when he is, he's not, he's irritable, he's not enjoyable, and he could be he could damage her. Another fact, she asked Tom to chop up a chifferobe, which is like a large dresser of sorts. Tom is the one on trial here. Implication: her family does not help her very much, or at all, really. And this is also shown later early in the book, when they say, if they want to wash, they have to go get the buckets and tote the water themselves instead of someone else doing it and just being there for them. And they just don't help each other out all that much. Once again, that's similar to 5. She's very lonely. She has no one else, really. And then the final fact established we found was Mayella accused Tom of raping her. And what the facts imply, once we get to Tom's testimony, you'll understand more. He's incapable of doing the things that had been stated prior. Now we'll understand that. That is the end of chapter 18. Chapter 19 is now Tom's testimony. And the facts established there were, the first one was, at the beginning of the testimony, he shows that Tom did once go to jail. And this implies that he had nothing to hide. He allowed everyone to know that he went to jail before. So this means that he once again, he has nothing to hide. Therefore, the justice system is flawed because they're trying to send him back to jail for something that he didn't even commit. And the first time, it wasn't even anything important. He was misunderstanding it. He still was imprisoned because he's a black man in the 50s. And the second fact established was he helped Mayella numerous times, about over a span of a year. And this implies that he's a good man. He would never attack or rape someone. This contradicts Mayella's and Bob's story. And what's interesting about their stories is they contradict each other. So, not very good. This shows that, and also in Mayella's testimony, they say that Tom has only visited their house that one time to cut up the chiffre robe, in which case this shows that it was over a span of a year, or much longer time than just once. Third fact established was Mayella saved nickels for a year to get rid of her siblings. She saved up enough nickels over the course of a year to get rid of all of her siblings for ice cream in the town when her father was gone, so that he could get Tom alone. And this is when the occurrence happened. And this implies that she premeditated getting Tom alone. And that was her goal, her main goal, because she was very lonely. She wanted him alone. Now, the fifth fact, Mayella grabbed and kissed Tom. Now, this is contradictory to everything. Especially, it's also a taboo in their modern society. Not their society rather than ours. This implies that she was seeking attention from Tom, which does make sense, seeing as she was very lonely with her circumstances and she wanted someone. Another fact established was Mayella's father sexually abuses her. This was brought upon after days. She was asked, "Do you have you ever kissed a man?" And she said, "Tom was the first. What my daddy does to me does not count." So that implies that she was sexually abused. And once again, Tom trying to take his daughter from Bob, however, may be sickening, could be a motive for anger. And that part too. This is a lot longer than I anticipated. I could shorten it if you'd like. Just email me about it. Final fact established for Tom is he runs. He tries to leave the area because it's in a no-win situation. He knows if he's caught, he's done for. So he wasn't thinking right. He just wanted to leave, and it made it seem even more as if there was a crime happening, because he never actually did anything. Mayella grabbed him on the legs and was trying to kiss him, and that's when he ran, when he saw Bob in the window, because he knew Bob would be very angry. And that is over for the chapter 19. Now, chapter 20, I like this chapter a lot. This is a very interesting one. They first meet Dolphus Raymond after Jem, Scout, and I'm blanking, my bad, Dill Harris leave the courtroom because Dill started crying because of the injustices done to the black-colored folk of the time. Now, Dolphus Raymond is an interesting character because he's shown as an outcast. He was a white man who wanted to marry a black woman. And the night before their marriage, the black woman killed herself because he was in an affair with another. And you could imagine what that would do. So he is now seen as an outcast, and people they see him as subhuman because he was a white man in love with a black woman, took advantage of her, and he did things bad. So people just didn't see him as the same. And next thing, he drinks Coca-Cola from a bag. People think it's whiskey and alcohol. Those are just the common schemas that we see, because it looks enough like alcohol for it to be that way, and it would make sense to justify his past actions, to understand he's trying to drink away the pain. And I have a quote here that I've actually very interested in myself. I kind of tie with it. It says, "I try to give them a reason. You see, it helps folks if they can latch onto a reason. When I come to town, which is seldom, if I weave a little, one drink a little." This means, and this was on chapter 20, page 268. Yeah, I quoted it, I know. So, this was saying that he does the things he does for the sake of other people. it's, and I understand this a lot, I have these thoughts too. It's easier for you to just be what people want you to be rather than trying to make them understand what you actually are. It's just simpler that way, and it makes people feel better when they are right about something, even though if it's a placebo or they're being deceived. He was saying he pretends like he drinks alcohol from a bag because it helps others understand what he's like, and they think that's what he's actually like, so it makes them understand him as a person and as a whole. When in reality, it's just Coca-Cola. But he does what he does for the sake of other people because he doesn't want them to have to understand what it's actually like. And it could also cause him to be more of an outcast, really, because he was lying to them for so long. And that is the end of chapter 20. Not very long. Chapter 21. This was the trial over, and we learned that Tom Robinson lost the trial because he was a black man. Except we did hear that they were in the jury was talking for a lot longer than they normally do, showing that Atticus did make an improvement. This was, as Miss Motti later said, tiny steps towards a bigger goal. Injustice against the colored folk will be ended. That's what the tiny steps are pointing to. And later in this book, hopefully we would learn that. And, okay. So, during this chapter, Jem, Scout, and Dill they temporarily leave because Calpurnia, their maid, comes in and says, she has a note saying that, from Alexandra, saying that they had not been there. They were at the trial the entire time. So they went home, but they came back. And I have a quote here again. Miss Jean Louise, stand up. Your father's passing. This was from Reverend Sykes. Reverend Sykes is the black missionary leader from the black church that Calpurnia goes to. And he was telling them to stand up, as all the blacks were, on the upper row, which is weird. It gives them a better elevation and can see everything that's happening with a better view of what's happening. So it's interesting that they actually put the colored folk above the white folk, because it also itself could, it could be conceived as they are enlightened or they're higher, better than the white, when in reality, no race or gender, anything, no one's better than another person. So, everyone was standing up out of respect for Atticus, a white man who was defending a black man at this time, which was revolutionary. No one had ever seen it. He took a different course of action. Normally, he would walk out with the bailiff and the defendant attorney, or in this case, he was the defendant attorney, the opposing attorney rather. He would walk with them out, with also Tom Robinson, or the defendant itself, and they would leave through a door behind the judge itself. But this time, to show everything, he was the first one to leave so everyone could see him. He left out the main doors, with all of his clothes on and everything, where the blacks were, so they had a perfect view of him, and it was more to pay homage or respect to them out of the deed he had done for them. And this was a good part. I enjoyed this part of the book very much, and I enjoyed the entire book in its whole very much, because it's a great story, and it really does. It's my favorite book, actually, now that I have read it enough. It really gets you thinking about human nature and what we are actually like. There are so many parts in the book that are so tiny but mean so much. I have some of those written down, but I don't have time for them, and I don't remember exactly where they are. But one of my favorite parts, I'm just kind of rambling now, but it's a great book, was at first when Scout and Jem had left Aunt Alexandra's, and she had fought Francis. Scout was talking to her uncle, and later she went out when Atticus and her uncle were speaking to each other about how to parent. And Atticus knew the entire time that she was there, but he had let her listen to everything he had to say because he wanted her to hear what was happening. I wrote that down somewhere because that was a really interesting and inspiring quote. I understood it, and I think it adds to the story a whole lot more. It shows really how much of a great person Atticus actually was. But that is the project. Once again, just email me if you need a shorter version, because I could really try to condense it from this. I feel like you're going to have a long time grading all this, because this, once again, is about 16 minutes long. However, I was more like 18 to 20 minutes. However, the requirement was 8 to 10 minutes. And then the written part was, the written project I did was actually 1,399 words, and it was 3 pages long. So if you need anything shortened, just email me and I will do that for you. But I hope you have a great day, and I hope you're safe. Have a great day, night, afternoon, whenever you see this. Goodbye.